Universal health care? Possible. Affordable college? Absolutely. A strong middle class? Should have been a given. But instead, this country chose racism over progress. And now everyone's paying for it. Because every time America had a chance to build something that benefited everybody, the thought of Black people having access to it was apparently too much to handle. Instead of progress, we got a country that actively made life harder for itself, just to keep Black people down. Universal health care. Not if Black people get it too. Back in the 1940s, America had a chance to create a universal healthcare system. Other countries did it, but the US? Nah. Now, you may be asking yourself, why? Because universal healthcare meant that Black people could go to the same hospitals as white people and potentially get treated like an actual human being. And they just couldn't have that. Southern politicians outright said that they wouldn't support it if it meant desegregation. Instead of universal healthcare, we got employer-based insurance. And that left millions of people uninsured, and we all know a hospital bill can bankrupt you. And now, even white people in states that fought so hard against universal health care, they're struggling just to afford insulin. Rural hospitals are shutting down because states are refusing federal funding. Medical debt is the #1 cause of bankruptcy. But hey, at least they didn't have to share a waiting room, right? Affordable college, though. Let's talk about that. Once upon a time, public colleges were affordable. California's public universities, they were basically free. Tuition in other states? So cheap, you could pay for it with a summer job. Can you imagine? And then the civil rights movement happened. More Black students gained access to higher education. And instead of just letting people go to school, states started slashing education budgets. Public universities raised tuition. Federal aid shifted from grants to loans. And suddenly higher education became a debt trap. And now, Americans are over $1.7 trillion in student debt. An entire generation is financially crippled for simply getting an education. And even jobs that require degrees don't pay enough to cover the costs. America was so determined to keep Black students out, they ended up locking everyone into lifelong debt instead. Now, home ownership. You know what builds generational wealth? Owning a home. After World War II, the government gave white families access to cheap home loans, setting them up for success. Black families locked out of those programs, thanks to redlining and racist lending processes. And when Black people did buy homes, white flight drained resources from those neighborhoods. So if we fast forward to today, the housing market is a literal nightmare. Wages haven't kept up with home prices. Millennials and Gen Z can barely afford rent, let alone buy a property. America's fear of Black home ownership helped create a market where now nobody can afford a house. Now let's talk about strong unions. Back in the day, unions were powerful. They fought for better wages, job security, and benefits. And Black workers, they were leading some of the biggest labor movements. What did corporations and politicians do? They went to war with the unions. Reagan set the tone by firing striking air traffic controllers in 1981. Companies spent decades breaking unions, outsourcing jobs, and replacing full-time work with gig jobs. Right-to-work laws made organizing harder, and now most workers were left with stagnant wages and no protection. America didn't want to give Black workers bargaining power, so they weakened unions across the board and made everyone suffer. This country could have had universal health care. It could have had free college. It could have had a strong working class and affordable housing. But every time America had the choice between progress and keeping Black people out, it picked the latter. And now, instead of just screwing over Black people, the entire system is broken. They deny Black people health care. Now the whole country's drowning in medical debt. They locked Black students out of college. Now everyone is shackled with student loans. They stopped Black home ownership. Now the housing market is a disaster. They fought Black-led unions. Now wages are stagnant for everyone. America wanted to keep Black people down so badly, it dragged itself down with us. And the wildest part is that people are still out here